Good day, family. Good day. It's good to see you. It is so good to see you. I hope you had a prosperous day today, a wonderful day today. If anything came your way, I hope you send it on to the side. Send it right back where it came from. I meant to get some clothes, but I ended up getting the hibiscus, but that's okay because I'm going to get used to that too. I just been noticing the past few days I don't end up drinking all of the hibiscus. And then the longer it sit in the water, it get more potent, so to speak. And my little cups right there. But and what is this one right here had from earlier? Oh, that's just water. That's good. Yeah, let's wait for someone to come. We are reading tonight. Oh, African spiritual technology, the power of black people. And this was like 15 hours ago, but it's on the channel Transatlantic Productions. It's an hour long. Oh, there we go. Good day, family. Good day. Good to see you. We got two. We got two. We're going to get right into reading tonight. We're going to get right into it. We ain't going to be here all night. Yeah, I'm going to cut right on to reading, and I ain't going to comment too much. We stopped on chapter 16 also. So let me maximize it for a little bit here. Good day, family. I am Face the Nation, and we are on Bolden Unchained. Oh, let me do the copyright disclaimer, and then I will just start reading. Copyright disclaimer under 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. And then I don't know, once I get used to it and stuff, maybe then we'll start, conversating a little bit before we start reading. But for now, I can't wait too long. I just can't wait too long and stuff. And I don't want to just sit here and be talking, so 2 people is good for me. And I can at least get started. Like I say, I appreciate that push because this is just different. It's different. It takes some getting used to. And I'm doing it. Yeah. Let me see. We're on chapter 16. I think I'll go. I'm just looking at the pictures right there. So it's showing the pictures of the big house where Robert was taken to when he was 5. Johnny Sadler. Who is Johnny? That must be his brother. Yeah, that's one of his brothers. Because Johnny and his other sibling was hired out. Look at Robert today. He's such a kind. Look at Robert today. He's such a kind looking man. Well, when this book was in. I think we're gonna read to maybe 21. Chapter 21. I think I can make it to chapter 21. I was thinking chapter 25, but yeah, chapter 21. Because I might be, compelled to say something instead of just reading through. So yeah, we'll go to 21. Let me just mark it off. And yes, we are reading The Emancipation of Robert Sandler. Sadler. And we've been reading about Robert. And Robert was sold as a slave when he was 5 years old. Him and his sisters was his sister Margie and Pearl. And his mother had passed away. His abusive father remarried Rosie, and she had 2 kids and stuff. And his father started selling them to just taking them and selling them as slaves. And we following his story at the current moment right here. He's 8 years old, but everybody done died, been murdered. His mama was beaten so bad by the dad and stuff. She died probably because of all that illness and stuff from that. And then she must have got sick, and even while she was sick, it had said that he was hitting on her, beating her and stuff. So she died. His baby sister Ella died. Then Pearl died because the master and his friends beat and raped her. His sister Pearl. That's he was at that slave house with her, the big house with her. And so we've been following his story and stuff because he wanted to tell it. Robert wanted to tell his story, and he remembered it enough to have this book told. So we reading it. And good day, Denise. Oh, that's perfectly fine. That is perfectly fine. We still reading and stuff. I'm trying to catch up with a little bit of it and stuff, to fill us in and stuff. And so Robert, he done went through a lot of torture and turmoil from the master and the sons too. And his family done been beat and torn apart and stuff. He ain't even seen his other brothers. But Pearl died when she was 15. She was just 15. Just 15 years old. So he all alone and stuff now. He's 8 years old. The master have told him that he can start going to the slave quarters. So he been going down there. And we just go read his story and learn about him and follow with him. And it's been real hard for him. It's been very hard for him. He's still just a little boy. He's still just a little boy. I think he's 8 years old now in this story right here at this point. But just seem unreal. Yeah. And a movie on TV to take the place of our ancestors' stories, not to me. So let's read, and yeah, hopefully we can get through this. We're going to read to chapter 21. Yeah, we're going to read at least to chapter 21 tonight. And I thank you for coming through. I thank you for coming through, your time and your patience, because there's so much going on out there and stuff. I've been seeing it. And thank you, family, my brother, for telling me that they going at each other and stuff. Your two boys, Rumpus and Muskie. Yeah, going at it and stuff. So, let them fight each other. Let them fight each other. Stay out of it. Stay out of it. Keep doing what you're doing, Black America. Chapter 16. Oh, and this book right here, The Emancipation of Robert Sandler, it was written with Marie Champion, right here in Minnesota, New Brighton. He met Marie Champion right here in New Brighton, Minnesota, about 20 miles that way. Yep, that way. And she wrote this story for him. Harvest time of 1921 saw plenty of work on the plantation. The slaves were in the fields before dawn, ready to work. The work in the big house began before dawn, too, and I was given added chores. Carrying water to the overseers in the fields was the hardest. He 8 years old, they done gave him more duties and stuff to do, more chores and stuff. Carrying water to the overseers in the fields was the hardest. I tried hard not to spill as I climbed the hill and walked along the uneven dirt paths, the quarter of a mile or more to the overseers. But more often than not, water spilled out of the pails and I would be punished. An 8-year-old boy, a child, a baby, practically. That's why Big Mac told him he got to be a man. Big Mac told him he have to be a man. When I arrived at my destination, breathless and dripping wet with sweat, with the heavy 2-gallon buckets, Thrasher would sometimes tip them over, dumping the water on the ground, and order me to go fill them up again. Don't spill any this time, he would snarl. I would fight tears as I struggled, toting those buckets. It was a job I had for nearly 3 years. I had eaten my supper one night when an awful pain in my jaw made me gasp. You ailing, boy? Big Mac asked without looking up from his dish. I believe my tooth is ailing. And ail it did. In a week's time, my face was swollen twice its normal size, and I was dizzy with pain. Big Mac told Master Bill about it, and he came into the kitchen to see it. Ain't nothing I can do except take you to the dentist in Anderson, I reckon, he said. To the dentist? It sounded so wonderful to me. I wanted to throw my hands in the air and shout for joy. That meant a trip in the buggy, or possibly the new car. I loved going into town, but had never been there since I had been brought as a slave 6 years before. He called me the next morning after he had been to the field for a couple hours. Get in the buggy, he commanded. I hear it outside, fetch the horse, hitched her up to the buggy, and then climbed aboard and waited. Master Bill came out soon, and we started on the journey to Anderson. I stayed near him because the road was filled with holes and very bumpy. When it got really bad, I took hold of his coattail and hung on for dear life. He did not slap my hand away. This simple gesture of holding his coattail meant as much to me as a warm embrace and a kiss. After all, he didn't push me away from him, and he was taking me to the dentist. Maybe he cared about me. That's how he began in the field. He just a little boy. He lost everybody. The town of Anderson bristled with activity. I gazed with wide eyes at the store lined Market Street. The sun shone on the low buildings as we drove up the sloping hill and pulled in front of a large white corner building. The dentist was a young white man with what seemed to be a kindly face. Well, where's that hustling today, Sam? My man is picking cotton, Master explained. Needing more in the field than in the car. The dentist smiled and nodded his head in understanding. What do we hear? He asked. This nigger of mine has a toothache, Doc, and I'd like you to fix him up. Sure enough, Sam. Come here, boy. I went into a small room with a window that overlooked a grassy, empty lot. Open your mouth, the dentist told me. You got yourself an abscess. I have to pull it and let the poison drain out. The dentist strapped my arms to the chair and then took a strange, silver-looking instrument from his drawer, clamped hold of my tooth, and began to yank. No anesthesia on an 8-year-old baby. No, nothing to numb me whatsoever. He just started yanking that baby teeth out of his mouth. Ooh. If it was a chipping and yanking and grinding process, but he finally got the tooth out. I screamed and howled and wailed miserably. Master Bill had told him he didn't want to spend anything on a painkiller because after all, I was a nigger. I hobbled out of the office somehow with cotton wad stuffed into my mouth to catch the blood and pus. Master Bill did consent to some medication for me, but with great reluctance. If he doesn't take this, the poison could spread through his body and kill him, the dentist explained. All right, give me the stuff. I'll see that he takes it. Going home was terrible agony. I wept bitterly in the back of the buggy. The pain was worse than 100 whippings with the cow lash. Once back at the plantation, Master ordered me to get the water to the men in the field. My face was fiery hot and my entire body ached. I couldn't speak at all. I wouldn't even try to form words in my mouth. Thrasher saw my face and snarled, Somebody ought to shoot you, nigger boy, and put you out of your misery. Yeah, mocked one of the drivers. Why don't you shoot him right through the head now? Maybe this nigger boy would like a bullet through the head, would you, nigger? Oh, come on now, Thrasher, jabbed the driver. Give him a chance. Let him at least run for his life. Thrasher laughed. Yeah. He pulled his rifle out of the saddle and cocked it. Okay, Robert, get running. Let's see if you can outrun this bullet. I twirled around, grabbing the buckets, and began to run with every bit of strength I had. I heard the gunfire, and I screamed and threw myself on the ground between the cotton plants, sending the buckets tumbling. The bullet missed me. Get going, Thrasher shouted. I began to crawl frantically toward the buckets. I couldn't lose those. When I had retrieved them, I tried crawling in the direction of the trees at the edge of the field. Thrasher fired again. I was almost insane with pain and terror, and it was only after about 6 shots was fired that I realized he was shooting into the air. The laughter rang across the field. The other slaves knew what was going on. I felt like a fool. I rose to my feet and ran for all I was worth. And when I was safe in the trees, I fell on the ground and lay there until I had regained enough strength to continue back. As I lay in the shade of the trees, I remembered Miss Seeley praying for John Henry when he was sick and how the Lord had answered her prayer. I looked up into the leaves of the trees. Lord, he said, Lord, I prayed, please. I wanted so badly for the pain to subside. I was dizzy and nauseous and could not form words. A few minutes later, a tiny, cool breeze blew across my face. It was so refreshing and sweet that I wanted to smile. Not long after that, I sat up feeling a little better. By the time I got back to the big house, the pain was almost gone. When Master Bill came in from the field that day, the swelling had vanished from my face and I was suffering no pain at all. Take your medicine, boy, Master called to me when he saw me bringing a load of clean towels upstairs. I stopped on the stairs and smiled broadly. Oh, sir, I explained. I was in such terrible pain, I thought I was dying for sure. Then I looked up to the Lord and I begged him to take the pain away and heal me. Master Bill grunted. I continued. There won't be no need for the medicine for the dentist, sir. I got the medicine straight from the Lord. Master Bill's eyes narrowed and he drew closer to the stairs. Come here, he ordered. I obeyed and jumped down to where he could see my face better. The look on him was one of complete consternation. Open your mouth. In the place where the tooth had been pulled, there was a smooth, gaping hole with no sign of swelling or infection. Well, I'll be damned. Oh, sir, the Lord done it. Sir, the Lord done it, sir. Sure enough, I prayed and asked him to heal me. I felt a cool breeze come across me from yonder, and then he healed me. Master Bill shook his head and then snapped. Well, get up them stairs if you be healed, boy, and get to working. We're on chapter 17 already. Yes. And he's still just a baby, 8 years old. Just 8 years old. Pulled that baby tooth out of his mouth with nothing. The joy over the healing of my mouth remained with me for many weeks. I whistled, sang, and hopped around the house doing my chores, pleased about everything. Most of the ugliness and pressures escaped my notice. Most of the ugliness and the pressures escaped my notice during the harvest because I had discovered that God actually cared about colored folks. Furthermore, I knew for sure that he cared about me. Me? It was hard to believe, but I knew it was true. That autumn, Miss Anna started school. I helped her get ready on her first day. I was sure this would be the end of our friendship. At school, she would learn to hate me just like her brothers and sisters had learned. She hugged me and took her lunchbox with Mary Webb, which Mary Webb had packed for her. Anna was distressed about the whole idea and wanted to stay home with me. In those early weeks of attending school, she often awoke in the morning fitfully sick. She would complain dramatically of a stomach ache or a headache or a sore throat. Once she insisted she had the pneumonia. As soon as the buggy was gone, she would miraculously recover. I was hungry, she'd tell me with a grin. Then after breakfast, we would head for outdoors, and I would take her riding on her pony, or we would catch frogs by the creek or pick wild berries. When Master Bill got wind of Anna's missing so much school, he ordered her to go to school, sick or not. Anna cried and wailed so pathetically. Master picked her up in his arms and cooed. Tell Daddy what will make you happy, honey. Between sniffs, Anna said, I want Robert to come to school with me. Master was not pleased with her suggestion, to say the least. He can go with you just once, and that's all, he snarled. I could hardly sleep that night. I finished my chores well before daybreak the next morning and had my breakfast with Big Mac in the kitchen while it was yet dark outside. I was given a chunk of cornbread for my lunch, which I wrapped up in a piece of brown paper. Big Mac didn't realize that I thought I'd be going inside the school. I scrubbed my face and put on my trousers and shirt and then waited for the children to wake up. Harry was not at all happy about my going with them. Dave's going to treat you bad, boy, she warned me in a whisper. I was too happy to consider bad treatment. God had shown me he cared about me, and now I was going to school. We climbed into the buggy at last. I sat in the back on the end. Anna talked and giggled in the front with her sisters. The ride was slow, and the early smells of the day were fresh and clean and sweet. I breathed in and felt good. The bumpy road was lined with dogwood, wild violets, and Joe Pye weed. Before long, we pulled up to the schoolhouse. It was a small red building, well built with even boards, and it had windows with glass and a door with hinges and a knocker. There was a hitching post for the horses. I walked up the path with Miss Anna. She wore a blue dress and a white pinafore. She had white button-up shoes, which weren't quite buttoned up. Her blonde, curly hair looked uncombed, even though it had been carefully brushed and put into place. And it blew and wisped in her face and eyes. She stayed close to me, and we neared the big door. At last, we was inside. I stood staring, my heart pounding loudly. The room was so clean, so neat, so polished. The wood was deep brown and it shone brightly. The rows of desks were clean and orderly. The walls were wood paneled with many things hanging on them. In the front of the room was a wooden platform and on it a large wooden desk. A white lady was sitting at the desk and she smiled at the children as they took their seats. When her eye caught mine, the smile on her face faded. The smile on her face faded. I'm afraid you're in the wrong school, boy, she said coolly. Oh, I come with Miss Anna. Anna, dear, take your seat, the lady instructed. Anna obeyed happily after depositing her lunchbox with the others against the wall by the door. I stood awkwardly by the door, holding my cornbread wrapped in brown paper in my hands, digging my toes into the cracks of the wood floor. The children took their seats and were quiet. The teacher rose to her feet. She was a stout woman, wore a blue dress with puffy sleeves and a black shawl over her shoulders. She peered at me over her glasses. Are you going to stand there all morning, boy? She asked. No, ma'am. Well, you know you can't stay here, don't you? Somebody in the room started giggling. I searched for Anna with my eyes. Somebody else began to giggle, and then others joined. Soon the room was filled with laughter. I couldn't find Anna. Helplessly, I looked at the teacher and tried to explain. I couldn't hear myself above the laughter. The teacher grew angry and pounded the desk to quiet the children. There was an empty seat near me, and I inched toward it. The teacher sprang at me. She shouted something, but I couldn't hear her with the noise of hooting and laughing. Then I felt a sting against my face. She had struck me across the face with a hickory stick. The class screamed with laughter. The teacher pointed to the door. I thought she was going to hit me again. I cowered against the desk that I wanted to still sit down in. He still wanted to stay. Finally, the teacher screamed, "Who is responsible for this?" After what seemed like ages, John said, "He's ours." "Get him out of here," the teacher shouted. John stood and walked slowly toward me. "Didn't you hear Miss Rowland? Get nigger. Colors are not allowed in this school," the teacher said. I moved toward the door with my eyes on John. "Colors are not allowed. Out! Get out, black thing!" The side of my face burned. Standing by the buggy, I could hear the laughter still going on inside the school. I spent the day sitting at the edge of the piney woods by the school. When the children came outside to play, I hid behind some trees so they wouldn't see me. I didn't want to be laughed at anymore. I saw Anna, though. And she ran all over the schoolyard from one end to another one looking for me. When the children went back inside, Anna was the last one on the wooden steps. She lingered there for a brief moment, stretching and looking with her hand cupped over her eyes. She was worried about me and wanted to know where I was. I could tell. I remained unmoving in my hiding place. That evening at home, I wanted nothing to do with anybody. I swore I would learn reading and writing one day. And furthermore, I put in a book all that the white man had done to me and to my people on this plantation. I got to read that again. That evening at home, he just 8 years old. I wanted nothing to do with anybody. I swore I would learn reading and writing one day. And furthermore, I'd put it in a book, all that the white man had done to me and to my people on this plantation. And he did it. This is his book. He did it. We reading it right here. We are reading it, honey. Let me mark it. I'm So grateful for Robert. Such a brave man. All them words. I don't. Let's read, y'all. Let's read. Gratitude. I knew I shouldn't forgive Master Bill like Miss Seeley had told me to, but I couldn't help wanting to get back at him. I knew I should forgive Master Bill like Miss Seeley had told me to, but I couldn't help wanting to get back at him. I chose stealing as my revenge. I stole little things at first: food, small coins, trinkets. I would bring these down to the court and give them away. On one of my visits, I met two brothers, much older than I, named Mick and Waxy Edwards. They enjoyed my gifts and suggested a deal. Whatever I brought that was worth something, they'd give me cash. Then they would, in turn, sell the stuff to sources outside the plantation so it would never be discovered in any of our possessions. It sounded like a good idea. I told nobody about it, especially not Miss Celia, who would talk me out of it, and Big Mac, who would probably whoop me for it. Now, he's still 8 years old, about this time, I suppose. One day, I stole a pretty vase. The next day, a silver pitcher. I stole a watch, a ring, handkerchiefs, and money. The money I made from stealing, I tucked into the drawer of my little dresser. I had no idea what I would do with the money, and I really didn't care about it. But I put it into the dresser drawer anyway. Maybe someday I would give it away. One Sunday morning, I was upstairs cleaning the master washroom when I heard a commotion coming from downstairs. Not paying any attention, I continued my cleaning. The commotion became louder. Soon I heard Mrs. Bill's shrill voice call up the stairs. "Robert, get down here." I hurried down the stairs and Mistress walloped me in the face without warning. My head spun. Then she hit me again across the ear, and I felt something pop inside my head. My ear burned and a ringing sound remained. Again, she hit me on the head. "You been stealing, huh?" "No, ma'am," I lied. She ordered me into the children's room. She opened my dresser and pointed at the box of money I had collected. Also, there was a paperweight in the corner of the drawer that I had gotten off Master's desk and hadn't sold yet. "If that ain't stealing, boy, what is it?" My head ached and the ringing in my ears was deafening. I didn't dare answer her. I could be killed for this. I remember what they had planned to do to John Henry, and I began to cry. "Lord, have mercy." Mistress Bill was furious. Her face was bulging with red blotches, and her eyes were little fiery holes in her head. Can you imagine how they looked? She found a belt of Thomas's on the floor by his bed and picked it up. She struck me again and again on the head and shoulders with it. Then she ordered me to sit on the chair by the door until she returned with the master. I was dizzy with fear and the burning pain of the belt's lashes against my skin. My ear and head ached terribly, and the ringing noise seemed to be worse. I wanted very much to pray, but I was afraid God wouldn't hear me. I had been bad, and now I was going to be punished for it. Maybe they'd hang me or tie me to a fence post and let me starve to death. I thought of running away, but that was impossible. I'd be caught and tortured to death. I was helpless in my predicament and frightened out of my wits. "Lord, have mercy," I pleaded again and again. I was sorry for stealing, truly sorry, but I knew there was nothing I could do to make up for it, and I'd have to take my punishment. The day wore on. I was still sitting on the chair by the door when the children came home. Big Mac had to unhitch the pony and put the wagon in the barn for me. I didn't dare move. When Big Mac heard what I had done, he wouldn't even look at me. His face held disgust and contempt. Mary Webb clucked like a hen. "He's ruined it for all of us. That child ruined it for all of us. They ought to dress him up good. And if the white men don't, the niggers ought to." The talk in the kitchen was noisy. I could hear the angry voices from where I sat. There was arguing, cursing, and bad words, and tempers were riled up good. The Bill children gloated over me when they heard what I had done. Virginia stood before me, hands on her hips, and sneered. "How could you steal from my daddy, Robert, when he been so good to you?" "Yeah," Juanita added. "Daddy took y'all in this here house when you wasn't nothing but a pickaninny baby. He's done took care of you fed you, and put the clothes on your back. Even carried you to the dentist when you was ailing. Now you're going still and blind. You ain't nothing but something bad, Robert. You's just plain bad. The only one who didn't participate was Anna. She seemed detached from everything going on and stayed in the music room by herself, trying to pick melodies out on the radio, on the piano. The hours passed and I sat on the chair waiting. The pain in my ear became so bad I wanted to cry out. It was evening when I heard the sound of Master Bill's heavy boots in the hallway. He smelled of whiskey. He stood in the doorway, and at his side was Mrs. Bill. She was scowling and waving her finger in my face. There he is, this thief, devil and thief. I told him to sit there and wait for you to come and punish him. This what he said. His motherfucking ass. I ought to kill you, boy, he growled. I ought to kill you. You ain't only a damn thief. You're damn dumb. Mistress Bill opened the drawers of my little dresser. Look what he's stolen, Sam. He's been stealing your old brine. Master Bill looked in the drawer with all the money and the paperweight I had taken from his desk. He turned to me, eyes narrow. You steal this from me, boy? I lowered my head and whispered, yes, sir. I done it, sir. Grabbing my face in his hands, he said, what were you figuring on doing with all this money, boy? I don't know, sir. I didn't have nothing figured. He hit me hard on the cheek. You're lying. Now you tell me the truth, or I'll cut you up till I get it from you. I was frightened and I told him the truth. I'd give it away, sir. I'd give it to the people who was hungry. That's what I'd do. Master hit me again harder. You never took this money from me, boy, because I ain't never missed this much. You've been stealing from my house and stealing stuff to somebody and selling stuff to somebody. Now who you selling to? I trembled from head to toe. I couldn't tell about Mid and Wax. See, I just couldn't. No, sir. There ain't nobody else, sir. He struck me again on the face and I tumbled off the chair. He picked me up by the collar and hit me again. Yo, tell me the truth, boy. He hit me again and again, but I couldn't tell him the truth. I have been missing many things, Mistress said. I just didn't suspect Robert. I thought maybe it was the new girl, Rosalie, or the chauffeur, Buck. Master grabbed hold of my head and pulled me by the uninjured ear through the house and into the parlor. We passed Big Mac, Harry, and Mary Webb, who were in the kitchen. Their faces were cold and indifferent, and none of them turned to look at me. Rosalie, the new girl, was in the dining room, sweeping the floor. And when she saw me pass, she nearly dropped the broom. She stood staring with her eyes wide and filled with fear. Maybe this was her first experience seeing a slave torture. The pitiful expression on Rosalie's face suddenly made me feel older. I would hold out and not tell Master about Mitt and Waxy, even if they killed me. In the parlor, Master told Mistress to put the poking irons in the fire. Maybe I ought to burn that lying tongue out of you, boy, he snapped. Then he brought out the cat of nine tails. The whip cut the skin and the lead balls tore it up. He ordered me to stand against the wall. Then he called, Rosalie! Rosalie! After a minute or so, Rosalie came into the room. You damn slow nigger, Master cursed. Can't you move no faster? Yes, sir, Master Bill, sir. Go get Big Mac and bring him in here and get a move on. Yes, sir, Master Bill, sir. I was so filled with fear. The pain in my ear was hardly noticeable now. What did he want with Big Mac? Oh, Lord have mercy. Big Mac entered the room. His face was hard and his eyes cold. He stared unmovingly at Master Bill. Master Bill wiped spittle off his mouth with the back of his hand and rasped, This here nigga stole from me, Mac. Yes, sir, I know, sir. The scar on his face glistened in the yellow light. He finna take the punishment. You does, huh? Well, maybe you know who he's selling this stuff to. Only Robert knows that, sir. If it's so, sir. Well, he won't tell me, nigger, and I'm aimed to find out. Yes, sir. Take your shirt off, he yelled at Big Mac. Big Mac slowly drew the gray shirt from his body. Master moved to the fireplace where the poking irons were red hot. He held one of them in his hand. Turn around, nigga. He laid the end of the poking iron onto Mac's back. I screamed in horror. Master whirled around to me and said, nigga boy, you tell me who you sold my stuff to, I'm gonna fry this here nigga up till he ain't nothing but a pile of ashes. No, I screamed, no. Master pressed the poking iron into Mac's flesh again. Big Mac moaned in agony. I screamed, stop, I'll tell. Master held the poking iron poised at Big Mac's neck. Please, sir, I screamed, please, Master, sir, I'll tell. I'm listening, nigga boy, I'm listening. It was Waxy and Mint Edwards. Master stood still for a minute and then walked slowly to the hearth and carefully replaced the poking iron. Big Mac was bent over in pain. Mac, Master said in a low voice, next time I give you a nigga boy to learn, you better do a better job than you did on this one. Now get! Big Mac straightened painfully, his face twisted. Then without a glance at me or Master, he left the room. Woo! Waxy and Mitt Edwards. Wow, nigga boy, y'all gonna take me to him and point him out. I stared at him in unbelief. Why? That was unthinkable. That would be Uncle Tommy in the worst sense. My life would be worthless. And if you don't show me, nigga boy, I'll lay that iron on Big Mac till his face is nothing but cinder. You hear me? Master Bill sent for two of his white drivers to come with him and drag me down to the quarter. When we reached the edge, some of the children I played with ran around behind shanties to hide. Everybody was afraid when they saw Master come. They knew it never meant any good when he showed up in the quarter. He had me lead the way. We walked along the path right in front of all the shanties so everyone inside could see me walking with Master Bill and the drivers. The shame and the dread was almost more than I could bear. I longed to die right there. If only Master would kill me. Finally, we came to the Edwards shanty. Master nodded and I went inside. The family was seated on the floor eating food. The cabin smelled of poke salad, cooking over the open fire. Tears streamed down my face. Miss Edwards, I blurted, Miss Edwards, the master done found out what we've been stealing. Done found out that we've been stealing. Who been stealing? She asked surprised. I've been stealing from the master. And Waxy and Mac and Mitt stiffened. And well, what is it, boy? Asked their father. I was shaking violently. Waxy and Mitt done take the stuff from me and sell it. Master, he outside. Mrs. Edwards rushed to the door. Mr. Edwards turned to his sons. Is this true? Have you been selling stuff from the big house for this boy? Waxy and Mitt lowered their heads. Yes, sir, they confessed. Mr. Edwards accompanied his sons out to the cabin to face Master Bill. It was a dreadful scene. Well, Robert, asked Master Bill. This here be Waxy and Mitt, I answered. Well, what about them? Asked the master. I already know their names. Well, they be the ones who was selling stuff from the big house. Are you telling me that these here niggas been selling my stuff from my house, Robert? I looked down at my feet. Yes, sir, Master Bill, sir, they be. A picture of Little William with his throat slit and the crows gnawing on him sailed across my mind. Master Bill hoisted himself up tall and said loudly, wow, good boy, Robert. You done real good to inform me about these two thieving niggas. You're going to get a nice little reward for this boy. I felt every eye in the court on me. You boys going to pay for this real good, Master shouted. Time up, boys. He ordered the two men with him. Mrs. Edwards began to cry. Oh, have mercy, Master Bill. She cried. They good boys. They good workers. They never done nothing bad before. Auntie, they never done nothing. Auntie, they never gonna do nothing bad no more. Spit Master. That's what he said. He said, Auntie, they ain't never gonna do nothing bad no more. Spit Master, taking me by the shoulder, Master Bill strutted back along the same path. We led the way and the two prisoners followed behind between the two field drivers. I was sick with fear and shame. This hell would be just fine, Master shouted. We had stopped right by a large chestnut tree with low-hanging branches. People peered from the doorways. Oh, God, no. Wixie and Matt didn't make a sound. Waxy and Mitt didn't make a sound. Mrs. Edwards had been falling behind, along with Mr. Edwards and the rest of their children. She was crying loudly and pleading with Master Bill. They's good boys. They good boys. Yes, Robert. Slowly the slaves encircled us, surrounding us like a long wall of grief. And that's just the master, his two goons, them fucking thugs, little Robert, who's 8 years old, the two boys, Waxy and Mitt, and then the rest of the slaves. It's like maybe 150 that was on that plantation. Yes, Robert, you did the right thing by bringing me down here and showing me these two nigger thieves. That's what I call a good nigger. I shrank from him, but he grabbed me by the arm. Now you can tie the rope around their black necks. A high-pitched wail pierced the air, and Miss Edwards threw herself on the dirt ground. She kicked her feet and screamed until dust flew up all around her. Master was taken aback by her demonstration. Mind yourself, Auntie, he snarled after he watched for a few seconds. When a nigger steals from his boss man, he got to be punished. Take me instead, cried Mr. Edwards. Take me. I'm old, and my days of usefulness to you are numbered. These boys is young, and the strength is still in them. Soon the air was filled with weeping and wailing. Miss Edwards threw herself at Master Bill, sobbing loudly. Others were moaning and praying and pleading and begging. Master turned angrily to the two boys. Strip off their clothes, he ordered. Then he made them squat down naked, and he whooped them with the cat o' nine tails. Then he had them lie down flat, and he whooped the bottoms of their feet. When it was finished, Master wiped his mouth and turned to the people. Any of you niggas steal from me again, there'll be some dead niggas around here. Then he turned to Mrs. Edwards. Okay, Auntie, I didn't hang him. He gave me a shove and we left the quarter. Back at the big house, Big Mac was stretched out on a bench in the kitchen with leaf poultices laid on his back and his shoulders. Master Bill stood looking at him. Huh, you ain't so tough after all, eh, Mac? Big Mac did not move or turn his head to acknowledge his boss. Master sighed and then growled. You carry this thieving nigger boy out of here, this here house, and set him to work in the fields tomorrow. Mac, you hear? You hear me? I don't want to see this thieving nigger face around this house again. How long I wanted to hear these words. And now they were my death warrant. Give him the thrasher and set him to work with a mule and a plow. I didn't sleep that night. And when I awoke before dawn, the bed was wet with tears. I wanted to take a last look at Anna, maybe feel her soft little arms around my neck once more and kiss her round, smooth cheeks again. But when I saw the iron-jawed face of Big Mac in the doorway, I didn't dare do nothing but follow him. There was a big slab of cold cornbread and a hot cup of sassafras tea waiting for me on the kitchen table. I ate and drank in a daze. Then Big Mac handed me a small brown sack. This is to eat at noon. Thank you, son, I said softly, longing for a smile from him, some kind of tenderness. There was none. He walked slowly and deliberately. I followed him, crying miserably. Mac, I whispered. He stiffened and refused to answer. Big Mac, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. There was no answer. Can I fetch the wood before we go? Can I? It was no use. Big Mac would not answer. His agony was intense. Since I was 5 years old, he had watched over me like a father. He had loved me like a son. We reached the quarter and I could see dark forms emerging from doors to line up for the fields. Big Mac brought me to a shanty in the center of the quarter. We went inside. There was a man and a woman there. Master done sent this here nigger to live. He'll be put to work today plowing with a mule, Mac told him. The man and the woman stared at me. Their expressions were cold and unfriendly. Then, without so much as a glance at me, Big Mac turned and left the shanty. I ran after him. Mac! I saw. Big Mac! He wouldn't turn. Please, Big Mac, don't leave me. I held on to his shirt sleeve. I saw the caked blood on his neck and back that had soaked through his shirt. Please, please, I saw. Big Mac would not look at me, and I saw in the dim light of early morning that his scarred face was covered with tears. It was tearing him up to leave him there. What our people done went through. Yeah, let's read, y'all. We're going to finish this. 18, we have 3 more chapters. I'm going to finish tonight. Chapter 18. The lines of workers were already streaming toward the tool sheds and fields. See, we're on chapter 18. Yes. I had no idea of where to go, and so I followed behind a young man heading toward a tool shed. I walked along in the darkness, feeling cold and sick. My ears still ached from the blow Mrs. Bill gave me. Master had put me out of the house and sent me to the quarter, knowing they would kill me just like they had killed little William. I pictured Big Mac's face in my mind. There was no person so dear to me, but I understood why he wouldn't talk to me or show me any compassion. He knew I was a dead boy. We stood in a line at the shed, and I saw the forms of the overseers up ahead. There was no mistaking the hulking form of Thrasher atop his clumsy horse, Trigger. The boy ahead of me brought a steel walking plow out of the shed. Thrasher saw me as he clopped near us on his horse. I know you, would be here this morning, Robert, he gloated. You'll get yonder with a plow. Tomorrow you'll get your mule ready to go by the horn. Jed, get him ready. The boy named Jed showed me how to hitch the mule to the plow and tie the reins over my shoulders. He helped me get a firm grip on the handles of the plow and showed me ridges between the water furrows where I was supposed to run the blade of the plow. I was completely dumbfounded by everything. To make matters worse, there were women behind me with bags slung around their necks filled with cottonseed. They would have dropped the seeds into the place where I had plowed. And to make it even worse than that, there were more workers behind these women with heavy wood farrows for covering up the seed, and this to plant a row of cotton. Naturally, if I did a poor job, the whole line of us got to lash across our backs. This made the other slaves so furious they'd be fit to kill the slave who was at fault. This was one of the ways the overseers had made the slaves did their work. The overseers made sure the slaves did their work well. I blindly began to manipulate the plow, my head swimming with pain. I made an awful mess. The mule knew that I didn't know what I was doing, and I couldn't get him to obey. It's a wonder I didn't get killed that first morning. The lash came down again and again on our backs. Some of the women were nursing mothers, some of them grandmothers. It was so cruel to make them pay the vicious penalty for my blundering. By noon, the sun was high overhead, and it baked our bodies as we labored. I had no covering for my head, and the constant beating of the sun's rays made me nauseous. Then came a lovely sound, the horn that announced noon eating time. The workers left their places and moved slowly to shady spots at the edge of the field for their meal. I began to follow them, but found I couldn't walk. Then I saw a great wall coming towards me. I fell broadside into its cushion-like softness, and all was black and very quiet. When I awoke, I was lying beneath a tree at the edge of the field. Someone sat near me. I opened my eyes and saw Corey Moore. Oh, Corey, ma'am, I moaned. Robert, you is with the fever for sure. Where the mule and plow is. I drug yo here, Robert, and Thrasher done put another man on that plow. Oh, Lord. Buck and me heard what fix Yole is in. Buck and me heard what fix Yole is in, and we thinks maybe we can work it so Yoles will live with us until the air clears. Besides, you being with the fever ain't good no how. Corey, I grasped. It don't make no difference. I's a dead boy. Just leave me be and let it happen. Well, We'll just see about that, Robert. We'll just see. Now come on with me. I done got permission from Thrasher to get you off in the field. I tried to get to my feet, but I couldn't. The great wall came at me again, and once more I entered this very black and quiet inferior. He fainted again. Corey managed to drag me to her cabin while I was unconscious. Often I have marveled at her strength. She was a little woman, and yet she had the strength of a grown man. I awoke long enough to drink or swallow warm water. Corey had lifted me onto their bed. I lay there unaware of where I was. When through this darkness I saw a face. I heard laughter. The face came closer to me, bathed in sunlight, smooth and lovely. It was Pearl. She smiled and reached out to me. Eagerly I ran to her, but I could not reach her. The harder I ran, the farther away she was. Pearl! Pearl! She looked wonderfully happy and radiant. Farther and farther away she moved, and then she was gone. I stood alone calling her when suddenly I heard a voice beside me. I recognized it but couldn't immediately identify it. It was as beautiful and honest as the smell of honeysuckle. Honey, the voice called. I turned. The sight was so glorious I cried out in joy. Mama! I ran to her, but she put up a hand to stop me. Honey, she repeated, everything's going to be all right. Her words were no sooner spoken than I felt a cool balm over my body. Everything is going to be all right. Then she vanished, but not before I saw a small figure beside her. Ella, my Ella! And she was gone. Later, when I opened my eyes and looked around the darkened shanty, the memory of the dream was fresh in my mind. The bed against the rough wall, the crunch of the shucks in the mattress, the wash bucket on the table, and a low fire in the hearth. All was in sharp contrast to the peace and bright beauty I had just seen. Mama, I said in the darkness. Oh, Lord. Ella. Crawling from the bed, I groped along the wall to the wooden table in the center of the room, then slowly across the wet dirt floor. Posterity. I moved to the hearth and lifted the tea kettle from the wire hanger which hung across the dying coals. I set the kettle down on the table. Excuse me. Prosperity. And stood trying to catch my breath. Then I filled the tin cup with the hot water, drank a swallow, and returned to the bed. There was a piece of fat back hanging from a hook by the hearth, and a bag of cornmeal in the corner. Since there was no garden near the house, I knew this was their only food. I was hungry, and I saw near me the brown paper wrapper Big Mac had wrapped my lunch in. Opening it, I found cornbread and could it be? Maybe my sickness was making me peculiar in the head. Right beside the cornbread was a slab of chicken. I ate it slowly, enjoying every bite. The thought that Mac had done such a wonderful thing for me made me feel better. I fell asleep then and didn't awake until much later when Buck came home. The fever had not subsided, and the pain was terrible in my ear and head. Buck poured some salt in the water from the kettle. He mixed it up and then poured some of it into my ear. Then he took some ashes from the hearth, wrapped them in a palmetto leaf, and dampening it with hot water, he told me to lie with my head on it. I knew something had burst or broken in my ear when Miss Bill hit me, and Buck's remedies didn't help. Buck and Corey's weekly allowance of cornmeal and fatback barely fed them and their little boy. Now there was me to feed too. They never complained about me being there though, and they shared what they had without a second thought. I prayed daily for the Lord to heal me. He had already healed me miraculously once with the abscess tooth, and now I begged him to heal me of the terrible pain in my ear. In about a week's time, the pain began to subside. To my dismay, however, I discovered I couldn't hear well out of the injured ear. I never did regain the hearing in that ear. Now I found myself with two disabilities, slurred speech and one almost deaf ear. Buck decided to try some more cures. Once he poked some axle grease in my ear, and another time he squashed an enormous bug on the table and squeezed this blood and insides into my ear. Every night I slept with my head on the ashes, wrapped in a palmetto leaf. Once we even put a few drops of urine into my ear, thinking it might open it up. Of course, nothing worked. I was feeling stronger though, and it was time for me to get to the field, with or without my hearing. The first summer as a field slave was the longest summer of my life. Each day was grueling misery. I could not get the knack of handling the mule and the plow. One day after work, I was putting the mule back. In the barn, and I remember that when the hot weather came, I was always a year older. I knew I had been 11, but I didn't know what came after that. Mule, I asked the mule, is you 11 or 8? I've been a studying, and I believe I am 20 years of age now. Corey informed me, however, that my birthday was June the 27th, and that I was now 12 years old. It was Pearl's wish that you'll know when you was born, and that you'll know your age. You was now 12 years old, child. While hoeing cotton, I was able to think about being 12 years old. I felt the whip on my back often because I plowed right into the cotton plants, which were now about a foot high. It didn't help much to be 12. I still was no good in the field, good only for the lash. Every night I fell asleep weary and aching. I slept on the floor of the shanty, wrapped in a dirty, lice-infested blanket. Buck made a wall of cardboard out of several smaller pieces and stuck them together as a partition so him and Corey and their little boy could have some privacy. I had my own private room for the first time in my life. It was only a corner without windows and only one blanket on the floor, but it was mine. Saturday night was payday. We didn't get paid, but it was still called payday. I kept my head down, though I tried to get a glimpse of Big Mac. I couldn't find him. I saw Miss Seeley's son, Isaiah, out of the corner of my eye. I wanted to ask him about Miss Seeley, but I didn't dare draw any attention to myself. Isaiah worked a different field than I, and I never even saw him. When I had received my provisions and was heading back to the shanty, he took hold of my arm. Robert, he said flatly, you enjoying being a field slave? Sure. It's fine. Just fine. Yeah, it's fine. Just fine, all right. That's all he said to me. He turned his face away. Isaiah, I urged quietly, please tell your mama. Tell Miss Seeley that Master would have killed Big Mac if and I hadn't brought him to Mitt and Waxy. With a quick jerk, Isaiah turned away from me. I knew it was useless to try to defend myself. What I had done was my fault and my fault alone. There was a price to pay for making mistakes, and I had mine to pay. I had to pay mine. The days were endlessly long and the nights far too short. Sometimes we wouldn't be finished working until way past midnight. Then we would drag our bodies from rest at 4 a.m. to begin all over again. There was constant muttering and grumbling, hatred, bitterness, and suffering were all we knew. The parties in the quarter, with energetic dancing and noise making, gave very little relief. Master Bill supplied whiskey to his slaves, but even in drunkenness, there was no relief. There was nothing to help forget the anguish and torture we were bound to. Sometimes the hopelessness became too much to bear, and the mind of the tormented slave would crack. Violence and suicide would often be the result. I could not understand how any of the older slaves had lasted through the years. Day by day, I felt the heart within me turn cold and bitter. All this good land to grow crops, enough for all. Yet the black people had to plow with their own blood. They hoed, chopped, picked with empty bellies to make the white man fat. Then the harvest came and they carried the cotton and the corn, the soybean and the tobacco and their own dead babies. Dead babies. Dead mamas, dead brothers and sisters. Beaten till they couldn't bleed anymore. Broken till they couldn't move to pick up any more cotton. Oh, Lord, Oh Lord, there's got to be a just God. Toward the end of the summer, the cotton fields were like broad white carpets, and I had to learn how to pick cotton. I was as bad at picking cotton as I was at plowing. With my long sack strapped around my neck and ground holding the mouth of the sack chest high, I would drag it along the ground beside the rows of the 5 foot high cotton plants while pulling cotton from the bolls. At the end of each row, there were baskets. We emptied our sacks into these baskets. At the end of the day, the baskets were weighed. Jed tried to teach me how to pick. Don't put your fingers all the way into the burr. Just pull them in. Put them in about halfway. Then pull the lock out. He showed me how to stoop down too. You'll bend this way so you don't get tired. Sometimes you carry 2 rows. Then he told me with a laugh, some of these old timers can pick 200 pounds before noon. And what you pick, you got to remain picking. You can't pick less. Yeah, you pick 200, that's your level. You got to pick 200. The cotton pickers moved down the rows of cotton, pulling the blossom cotton from the bowls. The unopened bowls were left for another picking. My hands were clumsy, and I broke branches as I handled the plants. This was a serious offense and warranted a lash of the whip because cotton would not bloom on broken branches. I just couldn't seem to get the knack, and I envied those who did it so well. Their fingers moved with skill and precision, whereas mine were troublesome and awkward. Weighing in time was at the end of the day. In my sack, they would always find dry leaves or a piece of bowl, and the penalty would be another lashing. I didn't pick enough cotton to satisfy the overseers either. The other slaves picked 200 to 400 pounds of cotton a day. I could never reach that quota, not once. On Sundays, we didn't go to the fields. I stayed near Buck and Corey's shanty, not wanting to go near the quarter. There had been no attempts on my life yet, but I thought every morning might be my last. One Sunday afternoon, I was alone in the shanty and was startled by a shout at the door. Robert Sandler, a woman's voice called. I was absolutely still, not knowing what to do. Robert Sandler, are you in there? The voice called again. Finally, I decided to answer and moved quietly to the door. There was a young black woman standing beside the shack, peering inside. She wore a cotton dress, wet with sweat. That ain't Margie, is it? Because, they sold Margie. Her hair pulled up beneath a straw hat, and she held a paper bag at her side. When she saw me, her eyes grew wide, and she cried, Robert, is that you, child? I stared at the stranger coldly. Robert, she whispered in a warm but frightened voice, come on out of there, and let me see yo. I didn't answer her, and I didn't move. I just stood staring at her. The woman put her bag down and held her arms out to me. Robert, honey, I'm your sister Margie. It was Margie. Margie. I squinted. Margie. Something inside my head blew into a million colored pieces. I saw a horse-drawn buggy and a terrified 12-year-old girl sitting in the back. Remember, they sold her. I heard the long-ago lost voice of Pearl. No, Lord, don't take Margie. No, please, Lord, bring Margie back. Margie! Robert, honey. I moved out the door, my heart beating wildly. I stumbled toward her, and as the burst of sunlight hit me, I fell into her arms. Vaguely, I heard the Bill's chickens clucking and crowing in the yard, and I could hear the dogs barking, and yet there was nothing around us, nothing and nobody. It was not happiness that I felt, and it was surely not hope, merely a numbness. The dead had come back to life. Margie held me tightly. I swore I'd find you again someday, Robert, honey. I swore. Pearl's dead, I sobbed. I know, honey. I done found that out when I come here the first time. Child, I've been here at this old farm 3 times looking for you. I straightened. First time a white child ran me off. I come around the back and come to the door, and a little white child come and say, what you want here? What you want, Chip? I told her I was looking. I was looking for my brother, Robert Sandler, and my sister, Pearl Sandler, who was brought by Sam Bill 7 years ago. That little old child lifted up her lip at me like she was fixing to take a hickory to me herself. Pearl's dead, she hollered at me. And then she told me to get, or she called her dad on me. So I couldn't do nothing but leave. It done broke my heart. And I never found out where you was that time. I closed my eyes. That little child must have been Anna. So I come back again, Margie continued. It's a walk that takes the whole day nearly. Figure 10 to 12 miles. Then I was run off the place 2 more times. I know that I ain't allowed here, but I had to come anyhow. She smiled at me. I brought y'all some things. For a crazy second, looking at her in the sunlight, I saw my mama again. Here's some trousers I done sold for you, not knowing your size or nothing, and a shirt. Then she pulled out some vanilla wafers, cold pork chops, and a cluster of grapes. There was also a jar of Vaseline. I stuck a vanilla wafer in my mouth and she lowered her eyes. Y'all ain't eating but a handful a day, are you? I didn't answer her. Then she told me of her escape from the family in Hartwell, Georgia. Hartwell, Georgie, who had brought her from Tom Billings. One day, Janie come and carried me off of that place. Janie? Yes, child, our sister, Janie. I could remember no sister by that name. Well, child, she be the third from the oldest, and she found out where I was, and she come looking for me in that big old car. She took me to Anderson to live with her. I listened as though I were listening to a story that the white children might make up before they went to sleep at night. Janie told me, she continued, that the only way I could stay free would be if and I got married. Told me if and I were married, the white folk couldn't come and carry me back to Hartwell. So they done fixed up a wedding and I got married to a guitar player they found who was willing to go through with it. Been trouble ever since. Maggie sighed, then took a breath and said a little brighter, I gotta be moving along, child. I'll be back again. She kissed me on the cheek, held me tightly for a moment. They beating on you, honey. No, they ain't beating on me. When Margie had gone and I was alone again, I thought maybe I had dreamed the whole thing. But a paper bag filled with wonderful things was evidence that I had not dreamed it at all. A stranger named Margie had been here. We're on chapter 19, and then we got 2 more. I was sure glad when the cotton picking season was over. I was given chores such as chopping wood, cleaning the barns, feeding the hogs and mules, and painting and fixing. I did all that I was told to do with very little concern or care. I spoke little, and even when I was with Buck and Corey and their little boy Adger, I had nothing to say. Margie came to visit me once more, this time Bree and Janie. They brought food and clothing. We sat by the hearth, and Buck and Corey shanty talking. Janie was a large, boned, striking girl with high cheekbones and flashing eyes. Her broad smile was bright and showed beautiful, even white teeth. She was obviously someone who wouldn't be held down. I eyed her with interest. Janie didn't say much to me, but she seemed to be genuinely concerned about me. She told me about a brother of ours named Johnny, who lived in Anderson. I could not remember a brother named Johnny. Then she told me that I had another brother named Leroy, who lived near the Bill farm. She told me Leroy owned his own little farm. It was shocking for me to be hearing things like this, and I could not relate in any way to the news. Strangers who called themselves my sisters telling me of a free world outside and about brothers of mine owning farms. It was just too much for my one good black ear to bear. I won't be back for a while, Margie told me. I was going to have a baby. The words meant nothing to me. When they left, Janie said to Corey, can y'all teach him about washing and such? He stinks terrible. Besides that, he's got bugs so bad they's crawling all over his face. Corey worked from sun up until late at night, but she squeezed in time for me as well as for her child and her husband. I had forgotten all that Miss Harriet had taught me about keeping clean. Corey showed me how to wash myself like Janie had asked. She showed me how to wash my teeth with a stick and reminded me to wash my clothes. Soon the winter would descend upon us. Even though the South Carolina winters are supposed to be mild, the temperature does get below freezing, and there is an occasional snowfall. The cold weather, it doesn't last long, but when there is no heat, shoes, or warm clothing, it's agony. The clothes Janie and Margie brought really helped. In fact, I doubt whether I would have survived had it not been for their gifts. With the harvesting finished, the pressure was not quite so heavy on us, and I felt myself begin to loosen up a little. I began to notice things again, like plants and trees. I noticed faces and sunsets, and I noticed animals. One day when I was through working in the barn, I took a walk down to the creek that ran through Bill's land. I stood on the bank, watching the water for a minute or so, and then got down on my knees and stuck my head in the water. I scrubbed at my scalp and then dried off of my shirt. When I stood up, it occurred to me that I wasn't alone. I turned around and saw a young man standing not 6 feet from me. "Hi," he said with a friendly voice. "Hello, Thomas," I answered coldly. "What you doing down here, Robert?" I smiled sarcastically. "I'm taking a bath, sir." "What y'all doing here?" "I'm taking a walk, that's all," he snapped. "Besides, it's none of your business." I shrugged and climbed back up the bank to begin the walk back to the barn. Thomas Bill ran after me. "Robert," he called. I stopped. "Robert, you're doing okay?" "Just fine, Thomas," I answered without looking at him. A July sun flashed across my mind, and his chubby face was covered with mud. We were children and playing in the rhododendron in the yard. "Well, it's just that I know it must be hard for y'all being in the field when you've been in the house all those years." I didn't answer him. "Listen, Robert." I took loud breath, indicating my disinterest. "Robert, I just wanted to say, that is, listen, I got to tell you something." "Thomas, if you got something to say, say it." "Well, first of all, I want to tell you I'm sorry for the hard things I've done and said to you." I looked at him hard, wondering what he was getting at. "And then I wanted to tell you about that stealing business." I turned away. "Well, I don't want to talk about that there subject, Thomas. Excuse me, I got to go back to my work." "Wait, Robert, I think you ought to know something." "Mitt and Waxy's, the boys you was giving the stuff to and they was selling it?" "Yeah, but they was selling the stuff too. To another plantation, Thomas. They had a way. I knows all about it." "Robert, they wasn't selling it to anybody on another plantation." "Huh?" "Robert, they was selling that stuff to Thrasher." My mouth opened in spite of myself. "I swear I'm telling you the truth." "Thomas, you is plumb crazy." I rolled my eyes and began to laugh. "Daddy went down to the quarter when he got drunk one night and went to the Edwards place, and he told Mitt and Waxy they could leave the plantation." I didn't believe it. "You're crazy, Thomas. They is good men. Master Bill needs strong men. They ain't enough strong men on this farm." Thomas looked at me sadly. "There ain't enough of nothing on this farm, Robert. And that's the God help me truth." That night I told Buck and Corey what had happened. "I declare," Corey said, wagging her head, "I've been hearing that Master's drinking is causing them to ruin. Maybe it's true. Why would he turn out Mitt and Waxy?" I had to find out for myself, and I cared little enough for my life that I went down to the Edwards place that night. I called inside. When Mr. Edwards came to the door, he looked surprised. "What you want here, boy?" he asked. "I come to find out if it's true that Master turned out Mitt and Waxy for their freedom." "They is free, all right, but they is still working the land sharecropping." Mrs. Edwards called from inside. "Come on in, boy." Mrs. Edwards smiled at me. "Robert, I'm so glad you come by. I've been wanting y'all to know that we don't hold no hard feelings for y'all. Come on and set yourself down here," Mrs. Edwards told me. "Son, Being a slave, they want you low and mean and like an animal. But we ain't no animals. We is people. And we got to remember that. Don't let them make you a dog when you is a man. I nodded. Your praying son? I reckon not, ma'am. You better not forget him here. He's the answer to all this. He's the only answer. If you don't got the Lord, you get some festering and all tore up on the inside. No, sir. Let them tear us up on the outside, not the inside. Son, don't you ever forget the Lord. Midwaxy's place ain't no better than this one, but they call it theirs, said Mr. Edwards. Do the master pay him? He done give them tools and seed, a few chickens and a hog. They keeps half the crop, and the other half goes to master. Lord, 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 Lord. Midwaxy farmed like they always had, but now instead of being called slaves, they were called sharecroppers. At least they were out from under Thrasher's whip. One Sunday afternoon, Master Bill found me standing by the door of Buck and Cora's shanty, and he motioned to me. Robert, he shouted, come here, boy. I ran to his side. Yes, sir, Master Bill, sir. Go get me some whiskey at the store yonder. I was shocked. He might as well have told me to take a little jaunt to glory. I wasn't sure I heard right. Buck wasn't around. Nobody was around to tell me if I heard right. You hear me, boy? Run up the Jubes and get me some whiskey. You's the only nigga around. Take the horse and get. Take the horse? What was he saying? Then I looked at the horse and he was pointing at it. It was Trigger, Thrasher's horse. It must be a trick. They're wanting to kill a nigga today. I'm the one. I'm gonna get killed. Sir, Master Bill, sir, your man I should get on Trigger, sir? I was so scared I almost called Trigger, sir. 2. Get on that horse, Robert, and get up yonder now. Don't you know Thrasher's dead? Dead? I stared at Master Bill with wide eyes. He rubbed his chin with a dirty fist. That's right. The Thrasher's dead. He got himself stabbed in the gut while he was sleeping. Now give me that whiskey. Thrasher dead. As easily said as today is a nice day or tomorrow it might rain. Thrasher dead. As easily said as today is a nice day or tomorrow might rain. Thrasher is dead. The narrow dirt road was lined with trees, and you could see the ironwood, fire pink, the asters growing wild along the sides and in the clearings. Never in my wildest dream had I imagined I'd be sitting on Trigger, Thrasher's horse. The horse was as demonized as his owner was, and I was so glad that I got back without getting hurt. A few days later, someone poisoned that horse. The slaves were still scared of Thrasher after he was long dead. They thought his ghost might come back and torture them. Some say they could hear Trigger going up and down the court at night, looking to do devilment. There was talk like that. The horse was walking up and down the court. Y'all, this is the big house. That's the big house. And Robert is 12 years old now. That's the big house. That's the big house again. That's Mary Webb right there. And that's the backyard Webb. Mary Webb, her little mean self that was in the kitchen. Yeah. That's her right there. And then that's Buck. If you can see him, that's Buck right there. And just some pictures that go to the field and 2 brothers down there fishing near Anderson, much as we did when I lived there. And there's picture of Robert right there. And that's Margie, his brother. That's Margie. That's Johnny and his wife, Alberta. And then that's Julie, and that's his dad. Right there. That's the family right there. And this right here is Johnny Sandler. That's his cousin or his brother. He went there when he escaped. And then here goes some more pictures and stuff. Margie and her son. And right there. And then there's Jackie with her friends. And down here we got Jackie's Aunt Cora, and that's Aunt Cora and I. And over here baking bread, and he picked cotton right there. And there's Jackie with a friend of hers. And right here you got the children's radio broadcast. There's some history. I'm so glad they still have these pictures too. Look at him. Look at Robert right there. Handsome man. He looks so kind-hearted, don't he? He don't look bitter. Like you think it would make him bitter. There go his wife, Jackie. Miss Jackie. That's who he married. My sister. And this is Robert right here today. Well, when the book was written. That's him right there. Ooh, chapter 20. Another year went by and I labored and prayed and grew strong. But never better at being a field slave. I couldn't plow, hoe, cut stalk, or pick cotton right. It was misery 24 hours a day. My only relief was in the winter months when I was put to other chores before plowing time would begin again. I missed Big Mac. There was hardly a day went by when I didn't think of him. The summer of 1925, I turned 14 years old. I had grown large with broad shoulders and thick arms. The other boys didn't want to fight me because I could beat them. Jed, who still worked the same fields as I did, often teased me. One of these days, that mule gonna plow you, Robert. Jed told me his real name was Zephaniah. Yeah, Zephaniah. Zephania. Zephaniah. The white master had changed it to Jed. They find it too hard to say, so they shortened it up and called me Jed. A Jeremiah was called Jerry. A Josiah would be Joe. And a Delilah Lee was changed to Lou. I thought of Tennessee, who refused to allow her name to be changed and wouldn't answer to Caroline. I smiled and said a quiet prayer for her, right there in the field, for her and for John Henry. It was on a Saturday night in the middle of the summer that Buck cleared his throat and said to me, "Boy, we's leaving this here place." When it had sunk in, I jumped up and down. Buck, don't leave without me. Promise me y'all won't leave without me. Buck promised. That night, there was a dance going on down in the quarter, and they were setting the floor. Yeah, they were setting the floor, honey. But I didn't go. Though my life was no longer in danger in the quarter, I wasn't welcome, and everybody stayed away from me. I walked slowly across the yard, past the chicken coop, and up the hill to the barn where the mules were. My mule, Jim, was standing quietly eating hay. Mule, I said softly, I had done plowed you for the last time. The words startled me. I held my breath. I had done plowed you for the last time, I repeated. I stroked his head and then left the barn. The night was hot and the air thick. My body was wet with sweat. There was something inside me like a fluttering bird. I is leaving this here place, I whispered. Yes, I believe I is leaving this here place. I walked back to Buck and Corey's, but was too excited to go inside and go to sleep. So I walked up the familiar path which led to the big house. I had walked that path for 9 years, and I knew each lump and crag to it. When I reached the big house, I stood by the wooden steps leading up the back porch. Taking a breath, I opened the door and went inside. I could get an awful beating for what I was doing, but I wanted to see Big Mac again. It was quiet inside. Mary Webb was rolling dough on the big table in the center of the kitchen. She didn't see me standing in the shadows. The kitchen looked exactly the same as it did 2 years ago, except a little smaller and dingier. I heard voices and hid behind the door. Mistress Bill entered the kitchen with Harriet from the dining room. Harriet, we'll be visiting tomorrow, and I want those crinolines pressed right nice. I want an extra pinafore for Anna, too. You hear? The smoothing irons were heating on the cook stove, and I heard Harriet's bare feet brush against the kitchen floor. I wonder where Miss Anna might be, and if I could catch just one more look at her. I peeked around the corner. Mistress Bill had left the room, and Harriet was testing the smoothing irons on the stove. I was afraid if Mary Webb saw me, she'd start to screaming and throwing things. So I remained hidden. After nearly an hour went by and Big Mac didn't appear, I crept back across the porch and back out the door. I had a longing to see Big Mac, and it was like a tight fist in my stomach. I searched the grounds around the chicken coop, the smokehouse, and, well, the wood pile, the tool sheds, and the barns for him, but I couldn't find him. I returned to Buck and Corey's shack that night feeling sad and uneasy. Nearly every day when Buck had returned from the big house, I had asked him about Big Mac, and he always answered the same. Big Mac be fine, boy, just fine. That is all I had to carry with me for the rest of my life, because I never saw him or heard from him again. Buck and Corey were in bed. I passed their bed quietly, but I wanted to talk to Buck. Sss, I whispered. Sss. Buck grunted. Buck, don't forget me. Please don't forget me. Okay, Robert, we won't forget you. Now go to sleep. I fell into a deep sleep and I woke Sunday morning long after daybreak. I lay for a moment or so in the stillness of the cabin, glad that we didn't have to go to the field. Then in a sudden panic, I jerked up from the floor and ran to the partition. Climbing up over the wood box, I peered over the top, not believing what I saw. The cabin was stripped bare. There wasn't a pot or a rag left. Everything was gone. In fact, it didn't look as though anyone had ever lived there. Black, dirty, empty, and damp. They were gone. Gone without me. They were gone. I leaped down from the box and ran to the door. The sun was shining, and it must have been at least 8 o'clock in the morning. I ran frantically across the yard and through the brush to the road. It was hopeless. There was nobody in sight and no way to find them. I walked slowly back to the shanty, but I didn't go inside. I walked on to the barn and stood beside my mirror. Jim, I said, they done gone without me. The mirror acted as though I wasn't even there. I filled the water tub, and as I stood there in the heat and the buzzing flies, I heard the sound of my own voice. I has done plowed you for the last time, I heard. Without even being aware of making a decision, I turned and walked out of that barn, walked down the dirt path toward the big house, walked right past the big house, past the circular drive, and onto the road leading to the highway. The road was narrow and hot. The pebbles had barely cooled during the night before the morning sun began to bake them. I heard the insects in the grass, smelled the honeysuckle and azaleas. The road wound through the thick green clumps of trees, and the sky overhead was a deep, rich blue, with thin trails of clouds scattered across it. I walked along the road with my heart pounding loud in my chest. I could be tied up. I could be thrown in the back of a buggy and beaten. I could be strung up. I could be dragged by my heels. I could be, oh Lord, help me. Help me now. I reached a place in the narrow road where it met a wider road. Abbeville Road. This is the road which led to Anderson. I took a breath and began to walk toward town. As I walked, the fear began to leave me. I had the feeling that I wasn't alone, that there was someone walking with me, walking alongside me, very close, so close I could have touched him. Jesus, I whispered, I know you're with me, and I want you to know I'm thanking y'all. Nothing about, was it Pearl? Was it Ella, or his mama? But I digress. I passed a little cabin nestled behind some tall poplar trees. There were wooden chairs on the porch. I noticed the wood pile, the well, and the iron kettles out in the yard for washing clothes. There was the sound of birds singing everywhere. I walked kind of hunched over, never letting my eyes leave the house in case someone would take a shot at me or come running out after me. To my amazement, I saw a black woman with 2 little children walking up a path by the cabin. And as they entered the cabin, she paused and waved a friendly hi to me. Then a tall man in overalls and a t-shirt followed the family into the house. He waved at me too. I didn't way back. They could be some of Sam Bill's people. And I hope they wouldn't guess what I was doing. I didn't know they were free people. I walked for several hours. Many cars passed me, but nobody seemed to take notice of me. One or two buggies passed by, two drawn by white people. One or two buggies passed by too, drawn by white people. But there wasn't a word said to me as they passed me. I couldn't understand it. I was fully expecting to be caught and dragged back to the beer plantation. Soon the plowed fields on either side of the road gave way to an occasional house, then more houses, some stores, and I was in town. It was midday and I was very tired, hungry and thirsty. I walked along a road with a graveyard surrounded by barbed wire along one side and houses on the other side. There were black children playing in the street and in the yards. I stopped by a group of young men who were leaning against a stone wall opposite the graveyard. Remembering what Margie told me about her brother, I asked in a harsh voice, "Do y'all know where Johnny Sadler lived?" "Sure," one of the boys replied. "Right down yonder. 2 blocks and turn to your right. It's the Inn House. Johnny Sadler." I was sure that was the name my sister had given me. Johnny Sadler, my brother. Breathless and feeling shaky, I walked up the quiet, hot dirt road to the Inn House on the right, 2 blocks down. The unpainted house was set up on concrete blocks. There was a small wooden porch lined with pots of blooming plants. All around the dirt yard were rich green trees and wild shrubbery and flowers. I walked cautiously up to the porch. When I arrived at the door, I called, "Johnny Sadler!" A woman came to the door. She wore a cotton dress and apron, and her hair was tied up in a bandana. "Is this where Johnny Sadler lived?" "Yes," she answered, a puzzled expression on her face. "I be his brother, Robert Sandler, and I be running away from the beer plantation where I—" "Oh, my Lord!" she cried, throwing open the door. She swept me inside. "Johnny! Johnny! Come in, honey. Come in and sit down. Johnny!" I heard voices from another room, and in a few minutes, a figure just awakening from sleep appeared in the doorway, smoothing his hair. "Johnny!" the woman cried very excitedly. "This here's your brother Robert." The man's mouth fell open, and his hands froze in midair. "Rob?" He walked over to me, looking at me with wide eyes. "Is it really you, Robert?" he asked. "Yes, sir," I answered. "How'd you get off that farm?" "How'd you get off from that farm?" "I done walked. I done walked off this morning." "Oh, Lord Almighty!" The man and the woman looked at one another with alarm on their faces. Finally, the woman said, "Honey, you must be hungry. I'm going to fix us all something good to eat." She fixed a feast beyond anything I could imagine. Eggs, grits, bacon, biscuits, and hot coffee. They watched me eat with eyes so wide they were as big as the fried eggs on the plate. "Didn't you never learn how to use a fork, honey?" the woman asked. "No, ma'am," I said, pushing the food into my mouth with my hands. Johnny said, "Robert, you wasn't nothing but a baby when I last saw you. I didn't think I'd ever see your little old face again." He told me he had a job in Anderson working in a textile factory and that he had been working there a long time. Over and over again, he asked, "You mean yo just walked off down the road?" He shook his head and repeated, "Impossible. That's impossible." "Well, I done it." And he did. He explained that it wouldn't be safe for me to stay in Anderson because Sam Bill would be sure to be around looking for me. They decided to take me to the train station and put me on the train to Belton. From there, I could catch a train to Greenville. I grew frightened. The train station was where they caught John Henry. We got a cousin there y'all can stay with, named Bessie Watts. He gave me a few dollar bills and folded them carefully into my pocket. Then the lady packed me a lunch box lunch. They took me to the station in a car. Get down on the floor, Johnny told me, and stay there. They were plenty scared as we drove, and they dropped me off about a half block from the station. I walked inside and did as they told me to do. I purchased a ticket to Belton and waited outside because I didn't see any colored people in the station. They warned me to be careful not to sit where there were white folks. There was a special place for us. They drilled me about the bathrooms and drinking fountains, too. I boarded the train without incident, though my heart was pounding wildly. When the train arrived in Belton, I still held my lunch on my lap, untouched. I got off and went into the train station. The noise of the train, the newness of a depot and people, and the strange town made me nervous and excited. The color section of the station was easily recognized. It was a narrow room like a hallway that nobody bothered to clean. I saw a man and a woman and a child sitting on a bench in the back. I gasped at the sight of them. Buck and Corey! They were startled at the sight of me. Buck sprang to his feet and ran to the window. He hurried to the other side of the hallway and looked out the door. Corey began gathering things together and held her son to her heart. Did you bring him, boy? Did you bring him with you? Bring who? Buck hurried back to the bench. Robert, he said gruffly, taking my arm and holding it hard. Did you come here with Master Bill? No, Buck, I answered surprised. I done run away too. I swear, boy, if you done brought him out. Buck, I didn't bring nobody. I done run away too. Finally, he let my arm go. I slumped down on the bench with them. They sat still, staring at me. I was quiet and did not look at them. It was not until we were almost to Greenville that Buck could speak to me. Robert, child, we has been walking all night. We took the desert way. The desert way? That's right, boy, through the woods, the fields, the back roads. We ain't slept or died. Why didn't you wake me, Buck? Why didn't you take me with you? Buck looked at me sadly. Son, if and they'd have caught us, they'd have hung us. And I couldn't do that to you. But you promised. Son, I couldn't get you killed. We wept together then, and I shared the lunch Johnny's wife had prepared. There were apples, raisins, cornbread, and some candy bars. Buck and Corey were exhausted and dirty. Their clothes were stained with mud and sweat. They had carried their belongings packed in boxes and blankets and toted 6-year-old Adger over 20 miles through the swamps and woods of South Carolina to Belton. But they would not rest until they reached Greenville. They sat rigid, with their eyes darting up and down the aisle of the train, expecting any minute to see Sam Bill come bursting through the door to take them back. We did not notice the rolling hills and the lush forest of the upcountry pass by the train's window. We finally saw the moss-draped oaks, the tall pines, or the flame in time. We hardly saw the moss-draped oaks, the tall pines, or the flame azaleas, and the mountain laurel in bloom. Our hearts beat in time with the clashing of the wheels on the train, and we would not rest until we reached Greenville. And even then, once in Greenville, there was no guarantee that we would be safe. Ooh, we're on part 2. I am so sleepy. We are on part 2. Thank you so much. We will start part 2 tomorrow night, which is chapter 21. Yeah, and Robert will be staying with Cousin Bessie. And that's where we'll pick up tomorrow. And thank you so much for your patience and your presence. I really do appreciate it. And yes, it's so good to see you all. Hi, Denise Wells. That is perfectly fine. We will be here at some point in the future. We're going to be rereading some of these books anyway. Just in the future, just so we can have it remembered. I sure appreciate you being here. I really do. Thank you all. And, process this too. This was pretty pleasant. This was a pleasant reading tonight. It wasn't all like the other nights have been kind of challenging to get through. But still process it. And, let's have a wonderful night. I'm going to go sit out on my patio. That's what I'm about to do. Yes. Thank you so much, Kenny. I will. And Layla, always I can see you without my glasses on. Sitting over there and stuff. But yeah, I love y'all. I'm sleepy too. But I'm going to go sit out on my patio for a little bit. Yeah, and then I'm going to just process this while I'm out there. And yeah, give me some rest. And I'll see y'all tomorrow, noontime, for Powernomics. Because you know, Powernomics, now we're getting into the action. Yeah. And I'll see you tomorrow. I love you too. I love you to life. And you know, keep some gratitude and a song in your heart.